I'm a stay-at-home mom and my husband works full-time. We have 3 kids and one of them is 2 years old. My husband helps a lot with the kids. He's a committed dad but is absolutely against babysitters due to an awful incident with a babysitter that was the reason his younger male cousin James got disabled years ago. I don't go out much since I have to take the kids with me and not every place is suitable for kids. We received an invitation from my brothers, who's been my husband's best friend since college, wedding, which we later discovered was child-free. My brother lives states away, so the entire trip will take 4 days, as well as my brother's in-laws weekend dinner party. I told my husband that I want to go since it's been a while since I went to a wedding and this one is special, and suggested that we get a trusted friend as a babysitter. He asked if I was serious to consider leaving our 2-year-old with a babysitter and suggested that I do what I normally do and stay home with the kids while he goes to the wedding. I refused and said I have as much right to attend as him since we were both invited. He said it wasn't his fault that my brother wants a child-free wedding and I should do this for the kids and sacrifice for their sake. I still refused and said it was unfair, and since he's a parent too, then he should stay also for the kids. He looked at me and said, "That's my best friend's wedding you're asking me to skip for Christ's sake. Are you kidding me?" Then said I was being petty for suggesting this and I was basically choosing to go to a party over keeping our kids safe. He asked me to consider this a business trip, what I would do, go with him and leave the kids. I said I understand his paranoia of babysitters, but really, all my friends have sitters and at times they're really needed. He said I ought to know better than what my friends tell me, and this wasn't even up for discussion. When I kept arguing, he called me selfish and said he won't let me ruin this relationship with his friend because I was being spiteful for not being able to attend and that my brother will understand my situation. He keeps asking who's more important, a wedding party or my kids, and said I was being unreasonable for making my attendance a hill to die on. Am I the asshole for refusing to stay home with the kids while my husband attends my brother's wedding?
Story time about how my husband's mistress tried to mace me and kidnap me. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. Husband and I have been married for 4 months. So yeah, not very long. We dated for 2 years and everything was pretty much okay. At the beginning of the relationship, I had my doubts about him. I earn a lot more money than he does and he's always resented me for that. He makes comments and jokes about how I'm the one that brings the bacon home. Finally, I told him that he needed to stop doing that, especially in front of our friends and family. But other than that, we've had a really great relationship. I never thought that he was capable of ever cheating on me. We finally got married back in 2017. The wedding was so special and our families were there. Our honeymoon was amazing, and when we got back home, we both decided that we wanted to buy a house together. Or mostly, I decided to buy a house and he would give me some money. Obviously, this didn't bother me because I knew it was our forever home, so I didn't mind paying for it and having him help me with the rest. After we settled into our new home, my husband decided that he wanted to get a better paying job. Obviously, this made me really happy because it would give him more confidence if he was earning more money. He decided to switch to financing and he started working on Wall Street. 2 months after getting married, he started earning way more money than I did. This made him so happy. But he quickly started to change. He only bought expensive designer stuff. One thing I did notice was that he never invited me to go to his office. Like the good wife I am, I decided to surprise him at his office with lunch. And when I got there, I was greeted by his assistant. I didn't get worried because I didn't find her very attractive. She looked very plain Jane and homely. But when I finally saw my husband, I asked him why he didn't tell me that he finally got his assistant. He told me that he just forgot and he didn't think it was important. So I let it go. But I noticed that his assistant was trying to be overly nice to me. And she was also asking me a lot of questions about my husband. But like I said, I didn't feel insecure at all just because I didn't think she was very attractive. At the end of the year, my husband and I are invited to the Christmas party. Of course, his assistant is there, and she proceeds to get drunk and start telling me things like how I was so lucky to be married to my husband and how I should be more grateful to him. Obviously, I took offense. I went straight to my husband and told him what his assistant said to me. That's when my husband laughed it off and said that I was reading into it. 2 seconds later, he's in his office with her yelling at her. Part 2 is up. Part 2 of how my husband's mistress tried to mace me and kidnap me. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. That's when I catch my husband yelling at his assistant. All I could make out was that he was telling her to keep her mouth shut when she was around me. Obviously, these were all red flags. I decided not to say anything for the rest of the night, but his assistant kept drinking the entire night. That's when my husband pulled her aside and told her to go home. She started crying and she tried to hold his hand, and that's when I knew it. They were having an affair. Mind you, I didn't suspect anything. I just thought she wasn't very pretty. She was very plain Jane. I didn't think that my husband would ever find her attractive. After she left the party, I decided to pull my husband aside and ask him what was going on. I asked him if he was having an affair with her, and he told me the truth. He said yes. Obviously, this was really heartbreaking. We hadn't been married long. That's when he told me that he wanted independence from me because I was the one that paid for everything, and that he wanted to feel like a man, and that because I earned more money and paid for everything, he felt less of a man. Wow, great excuse. He promised to break things off because he had no feelings for her, and that he actually felt bad for using her because she was falling in love with him. I told him that he needed to fire her right away. The following day, he fired her, but she shows up at our doorstep. But of course, my husband wasn't home. As soon as I open the door and see that it's her, she pulls out pepper spray and sprays me in the face. I fall to the floor and she grabs me by my ankles and drags me to her car. She was like scary strong. She opened up her trunk door and actually tried to pull me inside, but she couldn't lift me. Luckily, one of my neighbors was there and started yelling at her to leave me alone. That's when she got in her car and drove off. The police pulled her over 2 miles away. In her car, she had a shovel and an axe. She told the cops that she was planning on aliving me so that she could stay with my stupid husband. She went to jail and my husband and I are still together. Should I get a divorce? I don't.
Am I wrong for breaking my promise to my husband and letting others meet our newborn before him? This is already giving me red flag vibes. This is giving me manipulator vibes, but let's keep going. I, 25 female, moved away from my hometown to my husband's hometown, male 32, after we got married. The main reason is because he suffers from a medical chronic condition and needs to be near his family. Red flag number 2. I was pregnant with our first baby and was nearing my due date when my husband had to travel out of town for 2 weeks. Because of this, he couldn't be with me in the delivery room, which wasn't expected. I wanted to ask my mom to come with me, but he assured me that his family is there to help and I shouldn't be worried. Red flag number 3. He then made me promise that I don't let anyone see our son for the first time in person before him, besides his stepmom who was supposed to be there for me, and I agreed. Oh my god, what red flag are we on? I lost count. His stepmom was with me when I went into labor, but she stayed away since she is the type that doesn't get too involved and keeps her distance. She's also the I don't do diapers type, meaning she doesn't offer help with the baby and I shouldn't be expecting it. She dropped me and my son off at home and asked that I only call if there's an emergency. I felt helpless. I asked my neighbor for a few favors but needed real help with the baby, so I called my mom and asked if she could come help me with the baby. She drove 4 hours to come stay with me. She helped out tremendously and I'm so grateful for that. My husband stayed away for a few more days, then came home. Once he saw my mom, he got so upset, repeatedly saying I broke the promise that I made to him by not letting others meet our son before him. I tried to explain that I needed the help and he brought up his stepmom, but I replied that she dropped me off and left. That's it. He said it wasn't about mom since it could have been anybody else, but it was about me disrespecting his wishes and breaking the promise I made. Oh, what the? Let me zoom in for this shit. He reminded me that he's also the parent and he gets to say too. At this point I said he was overreacting, but he replied that I forever tainted the memory of his son's birth and broke his trust and proved to him that my word is worth shit now. What red flag were we on? Someone remind me? Mom tried to give us space, but I said she did nothing wrong. She came to help after his stepmom left, so I can't be blamed for asking for help. He told me to stop giving him excuses and admit I wronged him with what I did, and then started avoiding me and just kept focusing his attention on our son. He keeps acting cold towards me, calling me a selfish promise breaker, and expecting me to make it up to him. He wanted an apology, but I haven't given him that yet. So, am I wrong here?
A few years ago, I lost control of my car while driving down a super steep, super icy hill, and at the bottom of the hill, there were all these cars piled up that had crashed into each other because they had also lost control. And I thought, I don't want to hit the people, so I'm going to drive into that person's yard and hit their tree. But the one time in my life that I tried to jump a curb on purpose, my car was like, nah. And I bounced off the curb, spun around on the ice, and then slammed back into the curb, facing uphill on the wrong side of the road. I was like, I'm alive! And then I saw a huge truck, you know, the kind with the love handles on the side? He was barreling down the hill, also out of control, straight towards me. And I was like, oh no, I'm dead. I remember specifically thinking, I didn't think I'd go out this way. But the truck had the same thought process I did, and he jumped the curb, slammed into the tree. And ever since that day, I have been scared of driving in the snow. My whole family makes fun of me for it. They were making fun of me for it last winter. We were all having dinner together, except for my youngest brother who was out snowboarding. And he called us from the ski resort place, and he said, I have been injured, and I want Katie to come pick me up. And of course, my mother was like, help is on the way, dear. And he said, no, I want Katie to come pick me up. I said, oh, Mom, he probably just doesn't want to take you away from the family on Christmas. But on the inside, I was like, ha-ha, losers. Who did he pick? Me. Not you, not Hermione, me. Who's the favorite sister? I am Sookit. I said, I'm coming to get ya, and then I continued eating my dinner, because in my defense, the damage was already done, and I was eating wings, but my family was like, no, Kate, you have to go now, so I abandoned my wings to the vultures that are my family, hopped in my car, drove 2 miles an hour through a snowstorm to rescue baby brother. My big brother was in the car with me, and he kept saying, can't you drive faster? And I was like, I don't want to die. There were cars and ditches leading all the way up to the ski resort. I kept having to roll down my window and say, listen, I'm just here to pick up a body. I'm not going to ski. We get baby brother, we take him to the ER, and I said, I'm really flattered that you picked me out of the whole family to come pick you up. And he said, oh, I just know you drive the slowest in the snow, and you'd be the least likely to panic and die coming to pick me up. And that made me really happy too, because it was the first time in my life anybody had ever nominated me least likely to panic. I'm always panicking. And I said, you know what? After all this, I'm going to get you ice cream. But baby brother is 6'5" and built like a lumberjack. I think he's 6'5". He always says he's shorter than he is because he's a few centimeters shy of 6'5". And he's like, I don't want to be that guy who lies about his height. And I try to explain to him that after you clear 6'3", everyone's too scared to call you on your height. This Thor-looking mother trucker looked at me and said, I don't really do ice cream. And I was like, and he said, I mean, yes, could you please buy me some ice cream to make me feel better? And I said, yeah.
Am I the asshole for not getting my friend a $200 gift and making her feel unloved? My 28 male friend, 27 female, is usually a very kind person. but we recently got into a stupid argument about a gift. My friend is obsessed with the 5 love languages and she always asks people what their love language is, and she does her best to show love by using her love language. She says that her love language is receiving gifts, so everyone should put a lot of thought into her gifts. I thought that I did. She likes this one brand of artisan coffee from a local shop, so I bought her a big bag of that coffee from the store and a nice mug. Cost about $45 in total. We did our exchange 1 week ago and she seemed so disappointed. Am I the asshole for not getting my friend a $200 gift and making her feel unloved? She likes this one brand of artisan coffee from a local coffee shop, so I thought a big bag of coffee from that store and a nice mug would be nice. It costed $45 in total. We did our gift exchange 1 week ago and she seemed so disappointed when she opened her gift. I asked her what was wrong and she asked how much I spent on the gift. I told her and she said she was expecting a nicer gift, preferably about $200. She said that my cheap gift meant that she felt unloved because receiving gifts is her love language. That pissed me off. I called her selfish and materialistic and took the gifts from her. I left without opening mine and now we haven't spoken in days.